Hi, and welcome to Messages from an Angel. I'm your host, Angel Morgan, and today we have an amazing show waiting for you. We're going to be interviewing author, speaker, and teacher Katrina Bos. Katrina has written this amazing book that I have been reading all week, and the book is called What If You Could Skip the Cancer? And it's her amazing journey through this illness into peace and health, and I am really excited. We've actually been talking before the show and before we started streaming, and we're having this amazing conversation about energy and how it moves us forward and how to really love ourselves and what that means for illness, disease, and everything else in every aspect of our life. So stay with us. We're going to be right back on Messages from an Angel.
Think you have what it takes to bring value to the community? The TCN TV network is expanding and now accepting TV show proposals. Here's an opportunity to build celebrity status and become part of an elite group of community advocates that are focused on building, strengthening, and empowering our community in a positive way. Are you interested in embarking on a new adventure? TCN TV is searching for people interested in opportunities to change the conversation and pave an unforgettable legacy. If you feel you have something of value to offer, send a written show proposal to shows@mytcntv.com.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Hi, Katrina. How are you?
Angel. How's it going?
Good. Okay, so we are here with Katrina Bos, our author for today, and she has written this amazing book, if you've just joined us, called What If You Can Skip the Cancer? And this is her amazing, energetic journey into being new, being you, yeah? Being new and being you. I like that. I think I want to coin that, being new and being you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a bit about who you are, what you do, and maybe even how you got here. How you got here.
Yeah, that's always the funniest question, like, what do you do? Because I kind of do a lot of things, but now I teach, I write books, teach online courses, workshops, things like that. It's sort of and it sort of seems to be whatever's needed, that's where it goes, but it always comes down to this integration of, like, the spiritual parts of us into our real life. Like, I have children, and we were farmers, and I was a computer programmer. I've done all kinds of things, and I find a lot of things that we study in spirituality are really airy-fairy. Mm-hmm. Like, they don't necessarily really hit the ground.
They're not grounded. They're not really based in practicality, which is why a lot of people, I think, have a problem with it.
Right. Well, and it doesn't, it's kind of that, if it doesn't really help when you're depressed, like, if it doesn't actually help when you're really on the edge, then it doesn't help.
Well, we're a very tangible society, right? If we don't see it, feel it, hear it, taste it, smell it, how does it help? How does it resonate with us? We don't understand, I think, is there's so much more to it, and that's something that you address. And this is what you teach in your classes, yeah, what you speak on?
Well, and that's the thing, like, so for this book, for example, in my family, all the women had died of breast cancer.
Right.
So my mom died when I was 25, and pregnant with my son. And so it was really terrifying. Like, it was really, when she got sick, there was a real shift that had to happen because, I mean, everyone was gone, and I was in my early 20s. And so, and for me, like, as a person, I'm a real people pleaser. And on the good side of that, I really care about people, and I really want to help, and And so there's a good side of that. The negative side is when it's at the detriment of your own life.
Yeah, we start to put ourselves aside. And you say that in the book, this is something that we're taught generationally, right? It comes down from our mothers and our grandmothers and our great-grandmothers. And we really, not only do we not know any better, this is what we've been taught, and we've been taught this is the okay. But it's kind of a conflict, right? Because now we're in a new generation where it's like, okay, well, I'm also seeing the other side of it where we need to take care of us first. So how do we do that? That's hard for our generation, I think.
I think older generations, it's very natural because historically, like you figure 100 years ago, we weren't even persons.
Right.
We couldn't vote, we couldn't work, we couldn't do anything. So putting everyone else first and not listening within was a survival technique.
Yes.
Because no matter what was going on around us, we had to keep everybody happy.
Yes.
Because otherwise the children wouldn't be fed and we'd be on
the
street.
That was our job.
Like this was a huge
That was our
deal.
job, yeah.
But today, I think it's the same thing. Like, I watch, like, my daughter's 21, and she's got friends, and I listen to the women, too, and men, too, but just it's that feminine. We still have the desire to care. Like, we still have, you're a mom, so there's that huge part of your consciousness that still has him under your wing.
Absolutely,
right? So
yes.
you can't put that away.
No, but it has to be balanced.
And the key, and I think that was a big thing, so the cancer was a real turning point for me, because up until that point, one, I have a degree in mathematics. Like, I was a computer programmer. Like, that's actually where I began.
Wow, I didn't realize that. Did you say that in the book?
I don't.
Because I know you talked a lot about being the farm wife, which I thought was really interesting, because I actually spent a lot of years trying to be a farm wife, and that was hard.
Yeah, I had no intention of ever being a farm wife.
Yeah,
that
neither
was,
did I.
Like, I grew up here in Toronto.
Yeah,
so farming wasn't even
Yeah.
on the docket. Wasn't on a list of possible things you could do. Right. It was not part of career day.
Totally different lifestyle too.
So I was a computer programmer, and I went to university with my husband's sister, and that's how and then I fell in love with him, and I moved to the farm, and we became dairy farmers, which was the opposite of my intellectual, mathematical computer side.
Yeah.
But what it really did, and the real break for me, or the real shift for me, was our society really builds up our ability to think. Where if you're very clever, you're considered very important, right?
Yes.
And so the problem with feeling like you're very clever is that you think you have the answers in your life too. So my mind would create, okay, well, here's what has to happen, and here's the best path, and here's the best thing. So I have to marry the good man and have 2 children, and I have to do this, I have to get the good degree. Here's what I'm supposed to act like. Here's what I'm supposed to dress like.
This is what the perfect life looks
like. This is it. And
yes.
So my mind creates it in such a way, and now I force myself into that mold and make it happen, because I've figured out, because I'm just all that this is the perfect life, and now I'm the ideal woman, wife, daughter, everything. But of course it has nothing to do with reality.
No.
And that's what this happened. That's what this disease did for me, because I was living in this place, dying inside. Yeah. Because my soul didn't matter, my desires didn't matter.
And it becomes our familiar too. Like, we don't even recognize that we're unhappy, do we? We don't, because it becomes that familiar until something dramatic happens, and then you start to take a look at your life like the cancer, right? And then you kind of go, is this really what I want? And you were saying too in the book that there was a particular gentleman who was a part of that, and he's a very interesting character, by the way. Do you still know him? Do you still connect with him? He just sounds phenomenal. But we're going to get to him, and I'm teaser everybody. Let me keep you interested. So so you were saying you were the dairy farmer and that kind of thing, and then what happened once you found out you had cancer?
Well, everything changed, right?
Yeah.
Because I my kids at that point were 1 and 3 or 2 and 4 when I got sick, and it was really, really scary. And I didn't want it. Everyone always said, "Oh, well, I can't believe you're so brave. You didn't do medicine." I'm like, everyone's dead. Like this is a 0%. Like there's like in some families, chemotherapy is the perfect thing. Yeah. There's a lot of things that are called cancers. So. But in my sign, and this was the beginning of me really listening inside, because inside there was this voice that was like, don't take that path, don't go down that path. Yep. And for the first time, I really listened to that. And then, of course, serendipitously, this man, Jim, appears in my life. Like, literally, my car is spun out on ice. Yeah. He drives up, and I had met him before, and he sort of looks at me, and I had to actually come to a place, again, being a very independent, intelligent woman, I now had to ask for help.
Yeah,
which
and that's hard.
Never happened.
Yeah, that's
because
hard.
I help everyone else. I'm Superwoman. I never say no. I am.
Very interesting
right?
statement. I'm Superwoman. Do you know how many times I've had people say, you know what, Angel, it's time to put away the cape. You know, you can put it, it's okay. But that's hard. Like, you know, sometimes that can be really hard. Again, because of what's our familiar, what's been programmed in us. And that word comes up a lot too in this book. Yeah. The programming and the glitches, so to speak.
Well, and so this man, like, he first we went into a lot about how to pray.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of issues around that because I was angry at the church. I was angry with the hypocrisy, all that kind of thing. But he was like, no. This is your connection. You have to learn how to ask. Yeah. You have to learn how to listen.
What does praying mean to you?
Right? But it's all about knowing that, this idea that we think that we're bodies, if we believe in a spiritual, God, however you call it, we often think, well, I'm a person and I happen to be connected. And it's like, no. It's not like that. It's actually, it just is. It's just
so much more.
It's so much more. And that this wisdom is within us all the time.
Yeah.
And what I found the biggest shift was before that, my brain was always looking for clues from the surroundings. You're
looking out here.
What does that person need? What will that
yes.
make that person happy? So this was making all the decisions for me.
Right.
Instead of going, but what's the truth?
That's what we were talking about before the cameras started rolling. It was the whole idea of what is my truth, and we were talking about that word selfish. There's the idea of selfish and not caring about people, and the negative connotation and perception of that word, and the idea of selfish and saying, you know what, I need to take care of me so I can take care of you. And that's a really big thing. Like even for our children, I need to know who I am so I can be that example rather than losing my identity and not being able to show you anything because I've been so immersed in you. Right? It's the whole idea of me and what is my truth and what is it, how can I help you in that?
Well, and it's not even, I wouldn't even necessarily say it's my truth, it's just the
truth. Yes.
So my kids, one of the big shifts for me that happened was when my kids were little, it was sort of, okay, I couldn't handle that they had a bad day, right? So I would just do anything. I would just bend over backwards, doing anything I possibly could to make them happy. And of course it didn't work because they just woke up on the wrong side of the bed and maybe they just needed to be bitchy that day. Like maybe that was it. And but it was my issue with being uncomfortable with someone else unhappy, so what if they're unhappy? It's like, yeah.
I struggle with that. Totally. I still struggle with that. It's really funny because I have an amazing relationship with this wonderful, wonderful man. And when I first met him, he was going through a lot of stuff. I was going through it, but I couldn't see him going through sadness. And it really bothered me. And he said that. He actually said that one day. He goes, why is it not okay for me just to have a bad day? Why is it not okay for me to go through those struggles? Because in that, I'm going to learn. And even though now I know that and I support that and I allow those bad days, it's still inside of me. There's this fixer, this healer, this thing that goes, I want to help. But maybe help is just being there. Not necessarily doing anything. Maybe just saying, okay, you know what? I'm here if you need me.
And I think that's all they need to know because, again, like this book for me, this experience, it really made me know that I have guidance and so do you and so does that person. And if I look at you and I go, oh, you know what? I have simplified your problem down to something I can solve. Not true, but it's something that I can feel comfortable with, that I'm really intelligent and I've totally solved your stuff and I'm more intuitive than you are, obviously, and all this stuff. Like, we have these ideas in our head. I don't think that. That's just what we think.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would never try to fix people. Like, we have to assume that we're smarter than them if we think we have better answers than they're getting.
Very interesting statement. Very true statement.
And so then all of a sudden we go, you know what? I know that you have a connection and that's all I need to know. So even as a teacher, so what I teach, I don't teach people what to do. It's just more about helping them find their connection.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we come back.
Think you have what it takes to bring value to the community? The TCN TV network is expanding and now accepting TV show proposals. Here's an opportunity to build celebrity status and become part of an elite group of community advocates that are focused on building, strengthening, and empowering our community in a positive way. Are you interested in embarking on a new adventure? TCN TV is searching for people interested in opportunities to change the conversation and pave an unforgettable legacy. If you feel you have something of value to offer, send a written show proposal to shows@mytcntv.com.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity in our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Hi, and we're back with Messages from an Angel and our author, Katrina Bos. We're having the most amazing conversation about her book called What If You Could Skip the Cancer? And I'm telling you, everybody, even if you've never had cancer, this is a worthwhile read because this really applies to pretty much any aspect of our lives, yeah? I think it's great. I mean, even reading it for me, I was blessed enough to have the week to be able to sit down and do some work and that kind of thing and take a read of this. And as I read it, I found I could truly relate to it because I was that woman too. I was that woman who was a pleaser, wanting to fix everything, wanting to make sure everything was okay. And when I started on my journey, I was telling you earlier, I remember I had a boyfriend at the time, and he said to me, I don't like who you're becoming. And I said, well, what does that mean? Why? And he looked at me and he goes, well, you're not a pushover anymore.
Yeah, that sucks.
And it was great. It did suck, but it was great because there was this thing that lit this fire. It does. Okay, so that's important. It sucks for him because the reality is it helped me become aware, but he sits in that vibration, right? And maybe he's just not ready to get to that point. He's not ready to be where he was. But it's amazing that the minute our vibrations changed, we drifted apart. And that's going to happen too. And I think people need to be very aware of that, is that when you go on a journey like this, understand everything is going to start changing, whether it's the things you eat or the clothes you wear, the home you're in, the friends that you keep. A lot of things will start to change, won't they?
Well, and I think like even with your ex-boyfriend, it's the same. We were talking about like the truth.
Yeah.
As opposed to when we live in our minds, we create ideas. We create almost like constructs or something that here's what I want out of life. Here's what I want my life to look like. Mm-hmm. Here's what I want my partner to look like. Mm-hmm. Here's what I want us to do and accomplish. But again, none of this has anything to do with reality. Yeah. It's all just a fictional thing that we've made up that we want to live up to for some reason.
Because society tells us to. Society says this is the correct thing to do. The tangible part of our life, the physical part says, here, this is what's worked for generations. Now you get to continue that pattern. But that book, I know you know the 4 Agreements. Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard? Yeah. So they talk about that, right? The dream and how now we have the opportunity to change that dream and change the way we think. And this has a lot to do with that, yeah?
Well, yeah, and it's like, I think even growing up in school, we're taught that we have to get the A, right? Yes. So our brains have said, okay, well, you know what? If I do this and this is in life, like we've been trained, like those first, that's a long time to be trained that you got to get the A, you got to get the A, you got to get the A. And if you don't have an A, if you're only a B student, then you need to make some changes. That's right. It's all in the head. Yes. And again, it's all based on even the A is only based on what that one person thinks an A is. Yes. So now all of a sudden we go out into life, and what if no one can judge the A? So then all of a sudden everything changes. So then you have a relationship with someone, and we actually speak from our truths. And that's a whole adventure. Like when we just sort of live in our heads, then we go, well, our heads have to match up, which we know that they seldom do. But then instead you imagine you get together with someone and we go, okay, let's actually explore what happens when these two truths come together. Yeah. And every single moment, people talk about how the honeymoon period ends. Yes. And it's like, what if it's never supposed to end?
Yeah, and right? I've talked about that with people before. It's like, why does it need to end? Why does there have to be only a period of time? If we continue to speak our truth and our partner continues to speak their truth, that compromise is always going to be found somehow. My spirit and your spirit hear each other. There's this conversation that happens on a conscious level, and then there's a conversation that happens on this subconscious spirit level. And if we're speaking here first and listening here, this will follow. Totally. Right? Like, it's what I say to people all the time. In our society, what we do is go, oh man, I am so hungry. And then we turn and go, I'll eat later. No, you're hungry, eat. That's your spirit informing you. And the head tends to, and that's when we get the disconnect. Yeah. Right? When my son was little, we used to say, when you use your head, you're clever. When you use your heart, you're smart. But when you use the two together, that's wisdom. Yeah. Right? And that's actually quite a simple thing to follow that we tend to forget. Right? But I'm finding more and more people are actually coming to it now.
Well, I think that was the biggest shift in the book, that I actually had to start using my heart to make choices, and that my mind was just simply something that manifested the choice.
Yes.
Right? Because oftentimes something happens,
Yeah.
and someone says, do you want to do this or do you want to do that? And your heart literally either lifts and goes, oh, or it goes, oh, like, how do I get out of this?
Well, the head is there to keep you safe, right?
Well, it can definitely hold fears and stuff, but the thing is, this truth, it is the truth. So we were talking about children earlier. So when my kids were little, that was a huge shift I made, because before that, if something was going on, my mind would start to analyze it. You know, okay, so what's the answer? Yeah. What would look right to the in-laws? What's this? What's my thing? Yes. What are my fears? What are their fears? What, and like all this. And it's just, no wonder parents just go crazy. So when this all happened, of course, it was all about me now trusting within and listening and praying and trusting the answer I got, even if I couldn't explain it to anyone, which is a huge deal, right? That when someone says, well, why would you do that? And you're like, I don't know. And that's the truth.
That's a hard one.
That's the only truth, because, and so my kids, this would happen, something would happen, and they go, Mom, you know, can we do this? And I'd be like, I don't know, just a second. And I would kind of like, you know, the words are weird, but you know, you sort of tune in, or you pray, or you ask.
Oh, I get it.
And then an answer would come, and I'd be like, no, here's the truth. And the kids, no matter whether they liked it or they didn't like it, we know when someone is speaking the truth.
Yes, exactly.
And so they'd be like, and my daughter, so she's 21, well, she's turning 21 this weekend, she said to me about a few months ago, she says, you know, you were the most annoying mother. And not in a bad way. Like, this was actually a complete compliment. Because she said, because you were always right.
Yeah.
She goes, it wasn't that you needed to be right. You just were always right. So you couldn't argue with you, because I knew you were right. You knew you were right. And there was nothing we could do about it. But it also created an incredible safety within them, because they knew that, you know, I remember one time they had all their friends and cousins all over, and they were all upstairs, and they're like, I could hear them, go ask your mom if we can da-da-da-da-da. And they were like, you can go ask her, just go ask her. So they came down and asked me, and I said, no, whatever it was. And they went back up, and I could hear them, okay, so we're going to go ask her again. And I hear both my kids going,
why? The answer's not going to change.
Like, because in a lot of ways,
they trusted you.
It wasn't my answer.
Yeah. But they also
just
trusted you, and they heard that truth as well, right?
Exactly.
It wasn't, and you know what? Let me take that back. It wasn't even you they trusted. They trusted that answer that was coming. And
they probably knew the answer before they asked.
Well, they did. But see, okay, that's a really, really good point, because we do. All the answers are here. And you had said that earlier. You kind of skimmed over that. We do have all those answers in here. We do have all the medicines, so to speak, inside of us. So when we ask somebody else, a lot of times it's just to pull those nigglings in the back of our head forward. And I say that to people when I'm reading them. Like when I'm having a psychic read, most times when people come in, they already have the answers. It's only for me to say, hey, listen, you know what? Here's what I'm seeing, because I don't know you, but it's already there. So now you can address it too.
Exactly.
Right? And that's an amazing moment when people have that aha, and they're like, wait a second, but I knew that. That's so cool. And it is annoying to a kid too, because I remember this past Christmas, my son and I were in the, and my son and my boyfriend and I, we were in the store, and my boyfriend wanted to buy him some headsets. And I said, Jay, I said, are you sure you want these? Are you okay with this? And he goes, yeah, Mom. I said, you don't want the other ones? And he goes, no, Mom. And I stopped for a second, and I went, okay, you have to be really careful with these. And he goes, why? And I said, you're going to lose them within the 3 days. Now, that goes beyond just knowing in truth, right? Like, I'm taking it to an extent. And all of us have the ability to do that, but in my circumstance, it does go a little further. And he looked at me, and he knew what I was saying was true, because you could see it in his face. And he looked at me, and he goes, are you sure? And I said, you know the answer to that. And he goes, what if I took good care of them? And I said, that's fine. I said, but understand, even if you lose them, you're going to get them back in 3 days. Sure enough, he got them. Within 2 to 3 days of getting them, somebody took them. And he goes, Mom, it happened, da-da-da-da-da. And I said, it's okay. I said, remember we said this, in 3 days they'll come back. But there was a sense of peace that was in him throughout this. Like, even when he told me somebody took it, he was laughing. He goes, you were right. But because I was right about that, it coming back in 3 days must be right too. He's not trusting me. I'm his mother. He's not going to trust his mother, but he trusts the information because his own spirit knows that it's true, right? That's a very dramatic example of that, but this is on an everyday scale. This is really what it's about, is about what is my truth, or what is the truth.
And as a parent, you know, we often think that our job is just sort of, I don't know, lord over them, punish them, guide them, do all this, but the truth is, when we do that, then they are allowed to do that.
Yes.
And so they learn,
Becomes a
they
vicious
have this
circle.
beautiful inner compass,
Yeah.
right? And so what we're really doing is modeling this, because again, it also comes back to being okay when other people are uncomfortable. And it's not about being mean or anything like that, because we're doing it from a kind intention. But, you know, so it's like, here's the answer. I'm really sorry it's not the answer you want,
Yes.
but I really just can't see it any other way. And the truth is, we've had very, very few rules in the house, you know, and we didn't make up stuff on the fly because I was tired or in a bad mood or something. So they also trusted that. Like, there's a huge package of that, you know.
Right.
But I think and so now they're very easily, like, they speak their truth all the time. They're very comfortable. And I think that modeling is bigger than anything. But of course, for me as a parent, it was actually my first real training in listening, because as a mom, I was so concerned about doing it right.
Yeah.
So it was almost an extra thing. Like, I have a much more challenging time, say, in romantic relationships,
Yeah.
because that's more confusing. But my children, I was like,
But you know, we
here's
have
the
a
truth.
forte in different things, right? We're not going to be strong in the way we do things in every aspect, right? Like, for me, my career is really, really strong. For me, relationship is really, really strong. With Jay, you know, if it wasn't for Carl, I think I still would be that mom who's like, no, just do it. Just do what I say. Even as an intuitive, my mom's training for me was always there. And then this man comes in who is amazing, and he goes, yeah, but what if we were to look at it this way? And my eyes started to change. I went, whoa, this is a whole new way of parenting. So understand that even if there's a parent out there or anyone out there who has a way of parenting that is very, very analytical or from the head, it's never too late to change that. Yes, you're going to go through ups and downs because your kids aren't going to be used to it, or your family's not going to be used to this new way of being. But that's okay. Just continue to follow your heart, because what will happen is the rhythm will start to take. Right? You'll start to reshape everything to comply to this way of being now, right? It does take a bit of time.
well, and I think the key with that is that when we come back to this, you're actually coming back to you.
Yeah.
You're not becoming something else because you read a
Right.
book. You're actually going, and you can even say this to our kids, like, to actually be vulnerable and say, you know what, up until this point, I think I've kind of been acting like my mom and dad.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so
I've done that, yeah.
I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, I really want to interact with you differently. Like, we can be that honest and open, and then the kids also know, wow, so we can change and we
And
can
they
admit
appreciate
it.
that.
Totally.
They do. I actually had that conversation with my son. I said, you know, he says to me one day, he goes, I don't like the way you're changing now that you're with Carl. I said, what does that mean? And he goes, well, you're becoming too much of a girl. Right? You're becoming too much of a girl. Well, Anisha's laughing. But it's true, because I was mom and dad, right? And I'm a Gemini, so I can be very masculine as well as feminine. I can fix a bike, I can fix the car, and I can also, you know, cook and do the things I need to do. And I said, okay, but understand that this is me now, and this
it's
is my
nice to
truth.
be a girl.
It is. It's kind of, I'm allowing myself to really feel my truth. And I said, and I know I haven't, and I told him, I said, I know I've been a good mom, but I know I can be a great mom with you. And I said, and I want to try this way of being now. I said, would you at least just give me the chance? You know, give me 6 months, right? And he turns around and he goes, yeah, you know what? Okay, I can do that. Because he could feel that. It was still hard for him, right? And there's still days when he's like, too much lipstick. Like, okay, well, whatever. But you know what? 9 times out of 10, he's right. He's absolutely
Oh, that's
right.
awesome.
Yeah, he's wonderful. So for you, I think you've really nurtured that relationship with your kids. But how did you get here? And we're going to talk about that when we come back. I want to see that part of the journey with Jim and what that entailed, okay?
Awesome.
Awesome. All right, we're going to be right back. Hi, and we're back with Katrina Bos, author of What If You Could Skip the Cancer. Now, please know this is a call-in show, so you can call in and talk to Katrina, and it's 647-931-4701. And if you want to get a hold of her after the show, you can go to her website. What is that? What's your website?
KatrinaBos.ca.
So katrinabos.ca, and you can email her as well, I think, and that's what, Katrina at katrinabos.ca. Pretty easy to remember, I think. And if you want to know more about our show, you can always go to raisingenergy.com, or you can go to mytcntv.com, and you can find out all about Messages with an Angel and all the other wonderful shows on TCN. So now, the next part of this show, I would like to talk a little bit about you, specifically about your journey with Jim. Let's talk about that. I hope he's watching, or he'll watch us at some point. No, because he seems like a really, really cool character.
Oh, well, he doesn't have a computer or a TV, I don't think.
Good
so
for him.
I
guess that makes sense. Actually, now that I'm feeling like, okay, that was kind of stupid. All right, fine.
No, he kind of, he's probably fishing somewhere right now. So
he's awesome. Like, this man is like out of a movie, as far as I'm concerned. And he's just a wonderful, wonderful healer and a wonderful person. Tell us a little bit about him and your journey with him.
Well, the neat thing about Jim was that he actually, he was just a guy with 3 kids. He was a farmer, and then he was electrocuted in 1987. Wow. And he was was carrying an extension ladder, and he hit a hydro wire, and it basically fried everything. And I don't know whether he died, or he definitely went out and came back. And when he came back, he just knew things. It was like a reset. Yeah. And, he would sort of look at someone, he would just sort of know what to do. And he was also very prayerful about it, that he also knew that he wasn't meant to do anything he wasn't called to do. And he came into my life because we were shifting our farm to organic. And so he was our mentor for that. Nice. And then later I found out these lumps were growing, and of course he showed up, and I got the nerve up to ask him for help, and he helped me. But one of the first things he did when he helped me was, the first thing is I had to learn how to pray. Because he said, it's all about you and your divine connection.
Well, what was that question he asked you? What was that first question he asked you, which I thought was amazing?
What do I really want to do?
Yeah.
So I was lying on his table, and
just the way you write about him too, with that smile on his face.
Oh, I know. He was like, I think that was such a big deal, because he was so trustworthy. But I knew that this man just, it's like we were talking earlier about the truth. When you can trust that someone's really speaking from that place, it's like all of your chaos disappears.
Yeah. They become this rock, this ground, this place of respite.
Right? And no matter what, you're not going to pull them off. So you can kind of go into all the dark corners that you wouldn't normally go off into, because he's just going to be sitting there smiling at you when you come back. And I was lying there and I started crying and stuff, and he said, what do you want to do?
That's a hard question for some people.
Well, the first thing that came to my mind was, I want to go away. And he was like, awesome. He had this little chalet in the woods. Yeah, and you went he says, there. Just come here. And I was just like, I can't.
I feel like I've been on this journey with you.
Right?
Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's how beautifully written this is. So, sorry, you went to the chalet.
Yeah, no, I went to the chalet, and that was the first time I had ever been alone, I think. I mean, I'd been married for a while, and then kids and the farm, and I'd been in university before that, and I slept, and it's like I finally actually went, oh, wait a minute, like, this is who I am when I'm not doing for everyone else.
This is what I feel like. This is my energy. This is my body. This is I get it.
Well, and it was really hard, too, because one of the big, big lessons for me was he said, you have to learn to turn off your brain, which to me was like that's like asking a runner to cut off their legs.
Yeah,
it's like, no, you don't understand. This is all I've got. Like, this is it. This is what sets me apart. This is what makes me successful. Like, are you kidding? And he was like, well, then die. Like, he was just so clear, and he has nothing attached to living or dying either. So even as like a healer, which he does not call himself a healer, but if he does, he's like, people would message him or call him and say, I've got to see you. So-and-so's been diagnosed with cancer. He goes, okay, well, I can probably see in about 8 months. And they're like, but I'll be dead in 8 months. He goes, well, then I can't help you then. Like, he has no idea he has no thoughts that he's the one healing. It's like, you're on your journey.
You're on my journey. I'll be there as I need to be there.
If I'm meant to be there, I'll be there. And being around someone who is such a great human and a strong personality, who just effortlessly trusts this.
Yeah.
For my mind, that's always, calculating and sorting and solving and optimizing and it's like, what?
Yeah.
Like we can just relax all that and just live here.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think for a lot of energy workers, especially once you get the taste of that, it's what we strive for. It's that whole idea of sitting in that knowing, sitting in that place of so fully at peace with the flow and the rhythm, and just knowing that you're going to be in the right place in the right time when you're supposed to be there, as you're supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Such a beautiful thing.
And that's, I think, even being around him and so turning off my brain was the first big one. And that was like death to me. Like that really was a big death. But then actually feeling my emotions, which comes back to honoring your truth, right?
Yes.
And I'd always hidden my emotions, especially only the negative ones. We were allowed to be happy, but we can't be negative.
That's a whole conversation in itself, right?
But then realizing that it's just truth. It's not even it's just truth. It's like this situation, I am so sad, or I am so angry and that anger kind of says, okay, wait a minute, we've got to look at this, or even happy. Like I remember when my mom was sick, we weren't allowed to be happy either. We would have been allowed to, but we felt like we weren't allowed to because she was dying and she was suffering. How can I come home and say, oh my God, I had such a great day at work while she's sitting there, puffed up on morphine, you know? And so we really don't allow it, but to be able to say, I know I'm not supposed to be, but I'm so happy right now.
Do you ever notice though that a lot of this comes from fear? We're so afraid to express emotions because of how it will affect others, not realizing that, I remember when my mom was diagnosed with cancer and she had bowel cancer, and I remember getting on the phone, she told me, that my response was, yeah, and I already knew she was going to move through it, and I wasn't on this path at the time. And I remember going to her place. I got in the car. My son was very young at the time. And I got in the car and I went over, and she was there and she goes, oh, it'll be fine. And I'm like, yeah, I don't feel like there's really anything here. They're really getting on it. And I felt good. My sister comes, oh, she was my best friend and she was this. And I grabbed her arm and I pulled her into the bedroom. I'm like, you are putting her in the grave and she's not even gone yet. But I said, look. I said, you're sitting in fear right now. You're really afraid, and that's completely okay because that's what you're feeling. That's really good. Express it to me because right now she's just teetering. She's teetering, right? And then it hit me afterwards. Yeah, but what if my mom needed to hear that? What if she actually needed to hear that? And my mom confessed for me 2 days later. She said, when Michelle came in like that, it scared me. She goes, but I think I needed to be scared. And I said, you know what? That's not a bad thing. She goes, yeah. She goes, it shook me. She goes, but don't tell her. And I said, that's okay, because my sister can be very fragile at times. But it's amazing how when we speak our truth, when we actually bring it forward, regardless of we perceive it as negative or perceive it, it's meant for that moment, right? So even though she was afraid, even though she was saying, oh my God, my mom was, it was actually something that helped my mom to move forward. You know what I mean?
I think the other thing about people's emotions and being able to share them is there's a real shift now. And so, for example, my feelings are just my feelings, and they actually have nothing to do with you. But historically, we didn't have a lot of power. Like if you imagine, like whether it's 100 years ago or 200 years ago, we were very at the whim of the clan or what was going on or wars or that, So we felt very powerless, I think, and also the disconnection of true spirituality, like true listening, like even within the church. Church is great, but they don't actually teach like in the Christian church the Holy Spirit, that we actually are guided every step of the way. And that's a very personal, powerful space to be in, to actually go, in every moment, I can listen inside and I can take steps. There's no way you can help me on that because only I can hear my guidance. Right. Whereas I think historically we're used to using emotions and using our voices and using our actions to manipulate other people in relationships and everything. So like even if a child is doing something, we might overact to something to try to hook them into our emotions so that they won't do it or something, as opposed to simply, and even in relationships, we do it all the time. It's like, oh, well, or we come on really strong, or, maybe a partner might scare the other person into staying, or all kinds of things. So I think the consciousness that I am a little concerned about sharing my emotions with these people because maybe that person will now feel obligated to fix me. Right. And I don't want to do that, but I know who they are, so it's probably best to not share that with them. Like there's a wisdom also in where do we share,
when to and when to, discernment.
Because it's not everybody. I mean, like I could say to you, I get here and you say, how are you doing? And I could tell you 15 things, And you're going to go, awesome, good luck on your journey. Someone else might go, okay, so why don't you go to my place and we'll sort all this out. And I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
totally not what I was, it's not why I was sharing. But historically, that is why we often shared.
Yes.
So I think it's really important. Whereas, so here you kind of start to listen inside to the truth and you go, interesting. I can't believe that's my truth.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And everyone around goes, that's interesting.
My dad is like that. He will be sitting at a table. Everybody be talking, debating, all this, and he's quiet at the end of the table. And he'll say nothing. And he's a Gemini too, right? So he's the quiet male Gemini. And he'll sit there and I love watching him. And he'll just be eating and eating. And all of a sudden, he'll turn around and he'll laugh or he'll do something and he'll say one word and everybody stops. And they listen to him. And then he'll just go back to eating and doing his, and I'm like, it kills me. And it's like I was saying to my boyfriend, I said, I want to be him when I grow up. Because he does. He has this way of just connecting for this moment. He listens. It's almost like I can watch him sorting out everybody's truth, right? Okay, he's saying this, all right, whatever. And she's saying this, okay, that's interesting. And then he finds his. And then he goes,
well, it's kind of being the eye of the hurricane, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And you sort of sit in it. I mean, and we all know this even as we get older.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we've struggled enough. Do you think
that comes with experience, or do you think because with your kids, they already have that ability because of you to be able to really say, okay, this is my truth, this is how I feel, or do you feel like we actually have to step into that as we get older?
I mean, probably my kids had. I don't want to take anything away from them just being awesome humans.
Yeah.
And they can't own this, but. You know, my son, for example, when he was little, he had stomach aches. That was his litmus strip. If things went wrong, he'd be like, "Oh, I have stomach aches."
Yeah.
And he also was a pleaser, right? So I would ask him a question. You could see him watching me, going, "What does she want me to say?" So I would have to say to him, "I don't want you to say what I want to say. Yeah. I want you to say what you want to say." Right. And you could see him; he couldn't turn it off. That pleaser thing. Mm-hmm. And so I'd say, "What does your stomach want to do?" You go, "Oh, my stomach doesn't want to do it at all." Mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. And that sort of created that tool within him, right? Yeah. That he could do that. I don't know. I find that as an adult, so maybe he had that kind of going forward, that he was able to do it. But I think even as an adult, that wiring is still there. That wiring to always be everything to everyone, it's still there now as a 23-year-old. But I do think it's life that it's not an intellectual thing. You can't just go, okay, and now I've decided to be the calm within the storm. It's not like that. It's a very natural place to end up. It's almost like we all want to end up being the wise elders, but we're 25. It's like, no. There's a realness here. Like you don't become an elder until you're an elder.
Right. So you have to go through your journey to get to the elder without those experiences, without those learnings, without those tools that you've explored. Yeah.
I mean, you have to go there. It's like we were talking about struggling with people's unhappiness. But when you've really gone into your darkness, like when you've really gone in there and you've cried and you've wondered, why do I even want to be on this planet? Do I even want to be alive anymore? And you've really let yourself go there.
So the nurturing is a tool, but the experience is really what gets you there.
And it's modeling. Yeah. Like to this day, like my kids will still kind of giggle like at what I do or whatever, but it gives them great license to do whatever they want to do. Like it's so much less about me consciously nurturing them as opposed to just me living my life, doing my thing.
Yeah.
And but no, all distracted by
no, it's all good. Do you know what? On that, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. We'll be good.
Think you have what it takes to bring value to the community? The TCN TV network is expanding and now accepting TV show proposals. Here's an opportunity to build celebrity status and become part of an elite group of community advocates that are focused on building, strengthening, and empowering our community in a positive way. Are you interested in embarking on a new adventure? TCN TV is searching for people interested in opportunities to change the conversation and pave an unforgettable legacy. If you feel you have something of value to offer, send a written show proposal to shows@mytcntv.com.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity in our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Hi, and we're back with Katrina Bos and her book, What If You Could Skip the Cancer? And this has been an amazing conversation. We're having so much fun. We're actually going over time for each of our segments. It's like, oh my God, I never lose my time. Thank God for Anisha over there, because I don't know, we'd be going for the next 3 hours. So in total, now you are, what, 10 years after the book or 20 years after the book?
20 years after the experience.
20 years after the book. 10 years after the book, 20 years after the experience. So it took you how long to write this?
Oh, it took me so long to write it.
Yeah.
I probably took about 5 years.
And you were saying that you had, now this is, you can find this on audio as well. Mm-hmm. Now, where can people find this book? Like, where can they get it? And
everywhere.
Where can they find it? Everywhere?
It's on
Amazon?
Everywhere online, and it's
excellent.
in paperback and ebook and now in audio.
That's amazing. And you were saying to me before the show that when you were doing audio, it was like going back to writing the book, and it was still very fresh. Tell me about that.
Oh, it was so funny because, you know, I actually, initially I wrote the book because I didn't want to tell the story anymore. Because, you know, after I was healed and I had this miraculous healing, everyone was like, tell me what you did. Because I want to do what you did, because I want to get rid of this cancer. Yes. I don't want to use chemotherapy. I don't want to whatever. And I was like, but that's not the answer. Like, the answer that I learned, and that's what the book is about.
That's your learning.
It's about...
That's your personal
What's
journey.
your journey.
Yes.
It's sort of like if you imagine, like, here you are, like a Rubik's Cube. I don't know, I'm such a child of the 80s. Like, a Rubik's Cube. And then life kind of does this, and maybe karma and everything kind of does all this. And so now you end up all, like, amuck. And you have some disease, any disease, anything. It could just be depression. It could be
yes.
It could be anything. The key, and what the book's really about, is listening inside and hearing, okay, first I do this, and then I do this. Like, that's the key. Like, and what I did is not what everyone else needs to do.
Yeah, and that's what we kind of talk about on the show, which is one of the reasons I wanted you here, is because we always talk about the whole idea of living a feel lifestyle. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? And all that means is speaking your truth. And for each of us, you know, that's really very different and very personal. And the reality is that when we speak our truth, we find that our journey, even it could be similar to yours, is drastically different in how we get there. I had a friend, she passed away just recently, completely unrelated to the cancer. And her journey was Escar, and it's a Chinese herbal medicine that worked for her. And it was an amazing journey. And she too wrote this wonderful book on her journey, and it was incredible. The only thing I would say to those people out there who are listening right now, who are either going through this journey or know somebody who's going through this journey, is that whole idea of being there for yourself if you're with someone who is going through that cancer or that disease or whatever. And understand this applies to all kinds of ailments, all kinds of illnesses, like you said, but it is a personal journey. So when you read this book or any book like this, it is there to say, hey, this is what I can do, but then it becomes yours. You know, it becomes that journey in what is the truth. And I think prayer is a very, very important thing. And that prayer, what is that to you? What does that mean to you? Right? And what is it that you want to do? Like Jim asked, I think that's a very important thing. Now, one of the other things I wanted to talk about that I thought was really important was prioritizing. Talk to me about prioritizing. What does that mean? Because I think that was probably one of the most important things that I was reading about, because we don't prioritize well. When I read what you had said to him, there was a part of me going, yes. And then when I read what he had said to you, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. And it just feels like it should be common sense, but because of the society we live in, it just gets taken in a totally different direction than what our truth is. So talk to me about prioritizing.
So he had asked me about... He asked me what my pecking order was.
Yes.
He said, so how, it's almost like in the ranks in my mind, like how do I actually make decisions? And he says, so write down a piece of paper, you know, who comes first, how do the decisions get made?
Yes.
So of course me, being in my mind, here's the ideal mother, wife, blah, blah, blah. My children, my husband, my in-laws, the PTA, the church, blah, 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 all that stuff. And he looked at it, and I think I'm like, I just got an A.
We are the
right?
bee's knees.
Like I'm awesome, right? This is like, I did it.
I know me.
Right? And I'm awesome, obviously, and selfless and all these kind of things, right? And he looked at it, and he goes, wow, that's an awesome pecking order if you want to get breast cancer. And I went,
so direct.
I was so mad, right?
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, how
What?
dare you? I've got this figured out. Like no. I was actually, that's one thing about crisis. Crisis breaks you believing that anything, and I'll come back to that, but it's funny because you had asked about the title, and the title of the book is a lot about that. Like, what if you don't need the crisis?
Yeah.
Can you make the change now without having
without having to get to that point.
Right.
Get there before you get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I said, fine, what's my pecking order supposed to look like? And he said, well, first is God, and then is you, then is your partner, and then's your children, and then everyone else. And of course, and it was a real challenge because, of course, you talked about being selfish, or what we deem selfish to mean. But of course, if self isn't above others, we can't hear God. We can't hear spirit, whatever I know the words are very, very
exactly. Whatever you want to
stigmatized.
label that.
But if I'm not home, I can't hear anything. And if everyone else comes first, then I'm not listening.
No, absolutely.
And what amazed me, it sort of felt like, so we were farmers, and we used to have these chickens, and they would lay eggs, like they were little banty hens, and they would lay eggs. And so she would have like 14 eggs, and she would like lay on them like this, right, until and then she would stand up when they were hatched, and she would walk around with all these little chickens underneath her feathers, and she would walk along, and they would all like stay underneath her like this, right? And that's what this pecking order feels like to me. It's like, here's me, and here's me with my divine connection, and here's me, who I was born to be, manifesting these gifts, these challenges,
It's divine through me.
Right? And everyone I love is connected to that. But it's the only way to actually be that center in the hurricane.
That's right.
That's the only way. Like, there's no reason jumping out. Like, there's no reason. And it's funny, so I used to study Osho years ago. I love Osho.
I love Osho. I've actually just started reading books, yes.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, I just started.
And so he used to say that the goal in life was to become Zorba the Buddha. And Zorba the Greek was, this wine and women and life and just
luxury,
getting the juice
joy
out of everything, right?
Yeah, a real life Dionysius.
Right?
Yeah.
But to become Zorba the Buddha was to have the centeredness of the Buddha and still enjoy everything life has to bring.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I eventually came to, probably like many years later, because I was still farming with babies, and that was a busy time. But that was this pecking order, and to this day. So when I was reading the book for the audiobook, and I'm reading it, and I'm laughing at myself because I'm going through a lot of life changes now, and things have changed in my life, and I'm reading it going, oh, wow, this is really good.
I'll go back on some of the things I've read, and I'm like, I wrote that? Really?
Honestly,
so
it's like,
was that really me?
This is so timely right now. And my daughter, she was doing all the audio editing and for me. And so I would be going through some crisis, and I'd be like, and I talk to my kids all the time. Like, I was talking to my daughter, and she goes, Mom, there's this book you should read in chapter 10.
Now, before we go, there is one more. I didn't get to this part in the book, and I'm really sorry because I still want to read all of it. But I saw the title as I was flipping through, and it was Boundaries, and setting boundaries for us. What does that mean? Because that seems to be a really hard thing for a lot of people. Now, we've only got like a minute and a half to do this, but can you, in a nutshell, tell us about that?
So it comes down to this truth thing. So if you imagine, if you have a house, and you are the house, and within your house, this is how you like it. This is how, these are the rules of the house. This is how I like people to act with each other, and this is the boundaries. And the challenge with boundaries is that we first, as women, but even as children who were raised in a very domineering household, believe that we're not allowed to have boundaries. We're not allowed to have rules in our own life. And this is where anger comes in, because anger is something, especially as women, we're not allowed to
and resentment.
Right?
Yep.
So then the key is if we understand our boundaries, and I don't mean this in a holding people back.
No, it's a
line as opposed to a wall.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a truth. It's like, and everyone has different boundaries, right? That if someone encroaches these boundaries, we can say in truth, yeah, we can't do that. And if they still jump, that's what the point of anger is. That's the power behind it that says, I said
no.
This.
Yeah, I said
and
this is the thing. Yes, exactly.
And it's very clear, and it allows us a real sense of safety.
Yes.
It's our own kind of masculine doing that.
And we were talking about that earlier as well. We talked about it a lot before the show. And the idea of no. the idea of no as a perception, right? We look at it as a negative word, but what if no was a positive word that said, hey, you know what, I need to take care of me right now. So no, here is my boundary for the moment, and then we'll come back to it later kind of thing, right? Or we may address this, but here is my boundary. So thank you so much for being here. I can't even tell you how wonderful a show and a time I've had, and I hope everybody out there has. I'm sure they have. So again, katrinabos.ca or katrina@katrinabos.ca. See, I remembered. And it's raisingenergy.com if you want to take a look at this episode or any of the other episodes that we have. Or you can go to YouTube or mytcntv.com. You can find us pretty much everywhere. So enjoy that, and we'll be back right after these messages. Hi, and we're back. I am so excited to have had Katrina on our show today. I hope you've learned lots. I know I have. I feel very open inside and empowered inside, and I'm hoping that everybody out there is feeling the same way, because that's what it's all about. It's about living that feel lifestyle to be able to really know your truth. So please join us again next week. Again, if you want to check us out, you can check us out on YouTube at mytcntv.com, or you can check us out on YouTube at Raising Energy in our playlist section. You can check us out on Facebook. You can check us out on raisingenergy.com. There are just a plethora of places to find us, and we're going to see you again next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Messages from an angel.